Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yes, welcome back.
Today we are talking about something that I know you all care about a lot,
Hmm,
and something we all could use a little more of.
definitely more.
Time.
Yeah, time
We're
management.
going deep on time management with this really cool guide we found called Mastering Time Management.
This is a good one.
Yeah. What did you think about this one?
You know, what's funny is we talk about time management all the time, right? It's
Okay.
like one of those evergreen topics.
Totally.
But I feel like this guide really did a good job of getting to the core of why it matters so much.
For sure. And I think one of the first things that they say in the book that I think is like the biggest takeaway
Yeah,
is this idea that time is like your most valuable resource.
it really is.
Do you like really believe that?
Yeah,
Because it sounds kind of cliche, right?
it does sound cliche, but when you really think about it, you
Yeah.
can get more money,
Yeah.
you can buy things, you can whatever, but you can't get more time. Like once it's gone,
That's it.
and that I think is what makes it so valuable.
So then the question is, how do we like maximize it? How do
Right.
we like get the most out of it?
Spend it wisely.
So one of the first things that this book talks about is prioritizing tasks.
Okay.
Do you have a system for prioritizing?
I do.
Because I feel like I'm always kind of like all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Like I have to-do lists, but I'm not always good about actually like doing the things
Sure.
in the order they need to be done.
Well, and that's, I think, why to-do lists are great, but they're just step one,
Yeah.
You have to actually figure out how to prioritize the things on that list.
Right.
So this book talks about this thing called you've probably heard of it, the urgency importance matrix.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
Have you ever used it?
I have not.
Okay, so it's basically you just draw a little grid, and you have one axis is urgency and the other axis is importance. And you basically just plot each of your tasks based on how urgent is this and how important is this?
So give me an example then of something that would be both urgent and important.
Okay, so let's say you're working on a project and it has a deadline, a hard deadline,
Mm-hmm.
and your part of the project is crucial for the team to be able to move forward.
Okay.
That's something that is both urgent and important because it's time sensitive and it also really matters.
Got it.
But then there are things that might be urgent, but they're not really that important. Like, for example, answering certain emails,
Right?
Those could probably wait or you could delegate them.
Totally. And so there's also this idea of the 80-20 rule, which I always think of like Italian dressing,
Yeah.
but I guess it applies to time management as well.
It does. It's called the Pareto principle officially.
Okay.
But the 80-20 rule is a lot easier to remember.
It is easier to remember.
So the idea is basically that 80% of the results you get come from 20% of your efforts.
So if you can figure out what that 20% is
Oh.
and like really focus on that, that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck.
So even if you have the best system, the perfect system in place, I feel like distractions are still going to be
Oh my God,
Yep.
thing.
they're everywhere.
Like the other day, I spent probably an hour looking at cat-shaped teapots online.
See, that's a good use of time.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
But yeah, distractions are a huge problem for everyone,
Yeah.
especially now that we all have our phones and our computers and everything's always beeping at us.
Yeah.
So the book talks about a few things for dealing with distractions, and I actually do a lot of these things myself.
Okay.
One of them is time blocking.
Okay.
Have you ever tried that?
I have not, but I've heard of it.
So you basically just block off time in your calendar.
Okay.
And you say okay, from 9 to 10, I'm going to work on this project. And from 10 to 11, I'm going to do this. And that just helps you stay focused because you've already kind of pre-committed to what you're going to be doing during that time.
Yeah.
I also use a lot of apps that block distracting websites.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because sometimes I just need that extra help.
Like you need to be forced into it.
Exactly.
And sometimes I'll even put my phone in another room
I do that too.
if I really need to concentrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so tempting to just pick it up and check it.
Right. And you think you're just going to look at one thing and then an hour later you're like,
Exactly.
how did I get here? What am I doing?
Where did the time go?
Exactly. So something else that this book talked about that I thought was interesting is this idea of mindfulness for time management, which sounds kind of like a buzzword, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it does sound kind of buzzwordy, but it actually is really helpful.
Yeah.
It's all about just being aware of what you're doing in the moment, you know? And that includes how you're spending your time. So if you find yourself scrolling through social media for an hour,
Uh-huh.
just take a breath and be like, is this how I want to be spending my time right now?
That's so true. And I think that ties into the book's last big point, which is all about like focusing on what moves you forward.
Yes.
So it's not just about being busy.
Right.
It's about like making sure that the things you are doing are the things that actually matter to you.
It's like climbing a ladder. You want to make sure you're climbing the right ladder,
Yeah.
before you get to the top and realize, oh, this isn't where I wanted to be.
Right. So it's not about doing more things. It's
Yeah.
about doing the right things.
Exactly.
So to recap, time is your most valuable resource.
Yeah.
Prioritize those tasks.
Yes.
Learn to deal with distractions.
Sure.
And most importantly, make sure that the things you're spending your time on are in line with like your values and your goals.
Absolutely.
So I think the big question to leave everyone with is, what is one small change you can make today to improve your time management?
Yeah, like, is it making a list, or is it, scheduling some time to work on a specific project, or is it just taking a minute to be mindful,
Yeah.
and notice where your attention is going?
Love it.
It doesn't have to be a huge change. Just one small thing can
Okay.
make a big difference over time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another deep dive. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.